Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marshall here at Stony Lane. We are continuing our summer read aloud of The 100 Dresses. And we have read through half the book, right? We've read 3 chapters of the book, and we've done some thinking about our characters on these character cards. So I think what we want to start with today is thinking about what we've been thinking about. Okay, so let's take a look. Here's our card about Wanda. Here we go. It says she lives in Boggins Heights and has dirty shoes. She's absent and no one notices. She doesn't fit in. She's got these dirty shoes and this name and not a lot of friends. This name that's so different from everyone else's. So what we're going to do now is we're going to think about all the stuff that we've written about Wanda and think, what's our big idea about Wanda? Okay? So I'm thinking she's got all these things happening that are not her fault, right? Her name is different than everyone else, and there's nothing wrong with her name, but it's different, and it's making others kind of like tease her, right? And the way her shoes are, and she doesn't have a lot of friends. So, we were thinking about how our issue is fitting in. Our issue is about friendship, and these are things that are not her fault, but they're making it hard for Wanda to fit in. So let's write that. Because that's something that we're learning about our social issues. Sometimes things that are not our fault, sometimes things that are not our fault make it hard to fit in, right? And so that's all true for Wanda, right? Let's think about some of the other characters that we've been thinking about. So here's Peggy. We've learned that Peggy is popular. She's waiting to have fun with Wanda. Okay, that was like a small little detail of the story. She thought she was nice, and she thought that Wanda deserved being teased. So that's making me think, what's our big idea about Peggy? Peggy is mean, but doesn't realize it. She thinks she's nice. I mean, that's still not right. It's still not right. She doesn't know any different. She thinks it's normal to act this way. I don't think it's normal to act this way. I don't think you should make fun of people for things like that. Right? Let's look at what we were thinking about Maddie. She's Peggy's friend and she does whatever Peggy wants. She's also poor. And she's afraid of being teased. So it's making me think that maybe Maddie wouldn't be teasing Wanda, but she's trying to fit in too, right? She's trying to fit in so she doesn't get teased. She's poor, and she's afraid of being teased, it said, right? So sometimes, like, that makes me think that fitting in, or wanting to fit in, can make you do bad things. Wow, so there's all these different things we're thinking about fitting in. We're learning a lot about our social issue, and that's something that we do in the middle of a book, right? Remember the work of readers chart? How is the issue affecting my character? We were thinking about that. We were thinking about that for Wanda and for Peggy. For Maddie. How is the relationship of the characters developing? How is my character changing? Right? So we've been thinking a little bit about the issue. And this relationship between the characters is kind of crazy, isn't it? Because here we have Wanda, and we have Peggy, and Peggy's really being bad to Wanda, right? I think we're going to continue to see that. But we also see this relationship between Maddie and Peggy, right? Like, Peggy's behavior is making Maddie do the wrong thing too, right? That's not a good friendship. That's not a good friendship when one person is sort of like bossing the other one into doing the wrong thing. Okay, that's not a good friendship. So those are things that we're going to keep looking for as we keep reading the book. So now we're going to keep reading the book. Okay, so think about what we just did. We looked at, now that we had a lot of writing about our characters, we started to think about that writing before we went on. We didn't just go on and be like, I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder what's going to happen next. We thought about what we already noticed before we read on. So now we're kind of like reading, looking for certain things. That's something you do when you're reading a chapter book, right? You read on thinking about certain things. We're looking for certain things in our story. Are you ready? So we're on chapter 4. It's called The Contest. Here we go. Chapter 4, The Contest. Now today, even though she and Peggy had been late to school, Maddie was glad she had not had to make fun of Wanda today. See that Maddie didn't really want to make fun of Wanda. She worked her math problems absent-mindedly 8 times 8. Let's see, nothing she could do about making fun of Wanda. She wished she had the nerve to write Peggy a note because she knew she had never had the courage to speak right out to Peggy to say, hey, Peg, let's stop asking Wanda how many dresses she has. See that? So that's teaching me about Maddie. That's teaching me that I like her. I like her because she really wants to do the right thing, even though it's hard. When she finished her math, she did start a note to Peggy, and suddenly she paused and shuddered. She pictured herself in the schoolyard, a new target for Peggy and the girls. Peggy might ask her where she got the dress that she had on, and Maddie would have to say that it was one of Peggy's old ones, and that Maddie's mother had tried to disguise it with new trimmings so no one in room 13 would recognize it. That's right. That's right. Remember, Maddie's poor. She doesn't have a lot of money, so she's getting hand-me-downs from Peggy. And she's afraid Peggy's going to use that to tease her, right? She wants to fit in, and it's making her do the wrong thing. Let's keep going. If only Peggy would decide on her own to stop having fun with Wanda. Oh well, Maddie ran her hand through her short blonde hair as though to push the uncomfortable thoughts away. What difference did it make? Should she do that? Should she go along with this? No, right? Let's see what happens. Slowly, Maddie tore the note she had started into bits. She was Peggy's best friend, and Peggy was the best-liked girl in the whole class. Peggy could not possibly do anything that was really wrong, she thought. And as for Wanda, she was just some girl who lived up on Boggins Heights and stood alone in the schoolyard. Nobody in the room thought about Wanda at all, except when it was her turn to stand up for reading. She's trying to, this is what grown-ups call rationalize it. Try to say, fine, it's okay. Even though I know it's wrong, I'm going to say that it's okay. Okay? That's terrible. Wanting to fit in can make you do bad things. Let's keep going. Then they all hoped she would hurry up and finish and sit down because it took her forever to read a paragraph. Sometimes she stood up and just looked at her book and couldn't or wouldn't read it all. The teacher tried to help her, but she would just stand there until the teacher told her to sit down. Was she dumb or what? Maybe she was just timid. The only time she talked in the schoolyard was about her 100 dresses. Wow. Poor Wanda. I feel sorry for her, don't you? Telling about one of her dresses, the pale blue one with the cerise-colored trimmings, and she remembered another that was brilliant jungle green with a red sash. And would look like you would look like a Christmas tree in that, the girls had said with pretended admiration. Thinking about Wanda and her 100 dresses all lined up in the closet, Maddie began to wonder who was going to win the drawing and color contest. For girls, this contest consisted of designing dresses, and for boys, motorboats. Probably Peggy would win the girls' medal. Peggy drew better than anyone else in the class. At least that's what everyone thought. You should see the way she could copy a picture in a magazine or some movie star's head. You could almost tell who it was. Oh, Maddie did hope that Peggy would win. Hope so? She was sure that Peggy would win. Well, tomorrow the teacher was going to announce the winners and they would know. Thoughts of Wanda sank further and further from Maddie's mind and by the time the social studies lesson began, she had forgotten all about her. So we're doing some good thinking, right? We're thinking about how wanting to fit in can sometimes make you do the wrong things, right? We're thinking that sometimes things that are not your fault make it hard to fit in, but all this time, Wanda hasn't been in school. She's a character we haven't even really seen, okay? Except in like flashbacks where the characters are remembering, okay? So let's keep going. Keep going? Keep going. Okay, chapter 5. Here we go. The 100 dresses. The next day it was drizzling. Maddie and Peggy hurried to school under Peggy's umbrella. Naturally, on a day like this, they didn't wait for Wanda Petronsky on the corner of Oliver Street, the street that far, far away, under the railroad tracks and up the hill, led to Boggins Heights. Anyway, they weren't taking chances on being late today because it was important. Do you think Miss Mason will surely announce the winners today? Asked Peggy. Well, I hope so, the minute we get in, said Maddie, and added, of course you'll win, Peg. So it sounds like she's really trying to butter her up, right? She's trying to be really, make her feel good because she's afraid of her. Oh, I hope so. Hope so, said Peggy eagerly. The minute they entered the classroom, they stopped short and gasped. There were drawings all over the room, and every ledge and windowsill tacked to the tops of blackboards, spread over the bird charts, dazzling colors and brilliant lavish designs, all drawn on great sheets of wrapping paper. There must have been 100 of them, all lined up. These must be the drawings for the contest. They were. Everybody stopped and whistled or murmured admiringly. Take a look at this picture. This is what the room looked like. They're all dresses, right? As soon as the class had come together, Miss Mason announced the winners. Jack Beggles had won for the boys, she said, and his design of an outboard motorboat was on exhibition in room 12 along with the sketches by all the other boys. And as for the girls, she said, although just 2 sketches were submitted by most, one girl in room 13 should be very proud. This one girl actually drew 100 designs, all different and all beautiful, and in the opinion of the judges, any one of her drawings is worthy of winning the prize, and I'm happy to say that the winner is Wanda Petronsky. Dun dun dun! Unfortunately, Wanda had been absent from school for some days and is not here to receive the applause that is due to her. Let us hope she will be back tomorrow. Now, class, you may walk around the room and look at the exquisite drawings. What happened? What happened? She won the contest, right? Wanda won the contest with her drawings of the 100 dresses. Let's keep going. The children burst into applause, and even the boys were glad to have a chance to stamp on the floor, put their fingers on their mouths, and whistle, though they were not interested in dresses at all. Maddie and Peggy were among the first to reach the board and look at the drawings. Look, Peg, whispered Maddie. That's the blue one she told us about. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, said Peggy. And there's that green one. Boy, and I thought I could draw. While the class was circling around the room, the monitor from the principal's office brought Miss Mason a note. Miss Mason read it several times and studied it thoughtfully for a while. Then she clapped her hands and said, "Attention, class. Everyone back to your seats." And when the shuffling of feet had stopped and the room was still and quiet, Miss Mason said, "I have a letter from Wanda's father that I want to read to you. Sounds like something important is about to happen." Miss Mason stood there a moment, and the silence in the room grew tense and expectant. The teacher adjusted her glasses slowly and deliberately. Her manner indicated that what was coming, this letter from Wanda's father, was a matter of great importance. Everybody listened closely as Miss Mason read the brief note. "Dear teacher, my Wanda will not come to your school anymore. Jake also. Now we move away to big city. No more holler Polak. No more ask why funny name. Plenty of funny names in big city. Yours truly, Jan Petronsky." Wanda and her brother were being teased so much for being Polish that they decided to leave. They decided to move away. I don't know. That's terrible. That's terrible. How must Maddie feel right now? How does Peggy feel right now? Do you think they get it? A deep silence met the reading of this letter. Miss Mason took her glasses off, blew on them, and wiped them away on her soft white handkerchief. And she put them on again and looked at the class, and when she spoke, her voice was very low. I'm sure that none of my boys and girls in room 13 would purposely and deliberately hurt anyone's feelings because their name happened to be a long, unfamiliar one. I know that all of you feel the way that I do, that this was a very unfortunate thing to have happen. Unfortunate and sad, both. And I want you to all think about it. This first period was a study period. Maddie tried to prepare her work, but she couldn't put her mind on her work. She had a very sick feeling in the bottom of her stomach. True, she had not enjoyed listening to Peggy ask Wanda about how many dresses she had in her closet, but she had said nothing. She had stood by silently, and that was just as bad as what Peggy had done. Worse, she was a coward. At least Peggy hadn't considered they were being mean, but she, Maddie, had thought they were doing wrong. She had thought, supposing she was being made fun of, she could put herself in Wanda's shoes, but she had done just as much as Peggy to make life miserable for Wanda by simply standing by and saying nothing. She had helped to make someone so unhappy that she had to move away from town. Maddie got it. She was wrong, and she knew it. Right? She had wanted to fit in so much that it made her do something bad. So now we're heading toward the end of a book. And one of the things that we think about at the end of a book is, what does the author want me to learn about life or about this issue? What are you learning about this issue? That's something we're going to think about as we finish up this book next time. See you then.